Oh my goodness. Messing up kind of gets the nerves out of the way. It's fine. Okay, just redirecting. So I believe we are live now. Okay, sorry for the technical difficulties, but good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first Pirate Parents Live in the Umbrella Family series. My name is Carter Fenwick. I'm the Associate Director of Parent and Family Programs. Fun fact, the month of March is National Umbrella Month. And so we decided to hold 4 Pirate Parents Lives around the theme of becoming an umbrella family. We've all heard the term, helicopter parent, or even like a snowplow parent or a steamroller parent. But at ECU, we really encourage our families to be an umbrella family. So this concept is where a parent, guardian, older sibling, someone in the family will stand next to their student, not in front, not behind, but next to their student, holding the umbrella for them. That way the students' hands are free to experience life at ECU. They get to do their work, they can make mistakes, learn, and grow on their own. So our mission is to equip parents and family members with their umbrella, the tools and resources they need to support their students. So for our first Pirate Parents Live with this theme, we are talking about finishing strong. With me, we have representatives from academic advising, career services, and the Pirate Academic Success Center. If you are watching this video live, you can put comments into the comment section, your questions, comments there. We have colleagues who will moderate that and can answer your questions there. If you are watching the archived versions, you can still put your questions there, because my office will get notified, and then we can answer your question and direct you to the right place. Okie dokie. So let's have everyone introduce themselves. If we can say who we are, what area we are in, and how many years you've been at ECU. So we'll start with Dr. Coghill, then we can go to Dr. Guidry, and then end with Patrick.
Well, how many years at ECU? That's not fair. I don't like that. I'm Elizabeth Coghill, and I'm director of the Pirate Academic Success Center at ECU. And I love the imagery of the umbrella, because when my daughter graduated from ECU, it rained, and I indeed held that umbrella so that she wouldn't get wet that day. But we have a neat picture of that. I'm excited to talk with you. I've been at ECU over like 22 years. So I've got to see our campus grow and continue to support students.
My name is Dr. Tessie Guidry, and I am one of the MAP advisors here at ECU. MAP stands for the Major Advising Program. It can be a little confusing as to what exactly we do, but I think we'll talk about that a little bit later on today. I have been in education for 23 years as a teacher, as a counselor, as a school principal, and I've been at ECU a combined total of 12 years in some student service capacity. So I'm excited to be here and to share with you and to just join with you in trying to help your students finish strong.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Patrick Roberts. I serve as Associate Director of ECU Career Services here. I've been at ECU for 10 years now in August. I've worked in several different roles. Currently, I oversee the marketing, technology, and assessment for the office. Previous to that, I served in 3 different colleges as a career counselor and liaison, including the College of Arts and Sciences, the Health Sciences, and the College of Human Ecology. I do want to kind of forewarn you that I do have 2 6-month-olds in the next room. So we were joking earlier that this group might be the most important in terms of relating to that. So I apologize if there's a little background noise. I'll try to keep myself muted when I'm not talking. So happy to be here, excited to talk about the topic.
Thank you all. And again, my name is Carter Fenwick. I'm the Associate Director of Parent and Family Programs. And I have been working at ECU for almost 4 years. So I'm the youngin in the bunch. I haven't worked as much, but that's why we have people here who have the expertise to talk about these important topics. So thank you all for being here. Our first question and topic that we'll talk about is this semester. We know this year has been a challenge, and we're about halfway through the spring semester. So what are some things that our students can be doing right now? Not waiting until exam time, not waiting until the week before exams, but doing right now to be successful and prepare themselves for the end of the semester and moving into the summer. Dr. Guidry, if you would like to start us off.
Yeah, sure. So from an advising perspective, what I tell my students right now is continue to push forward, ask for help. If you need help, ask someone, ask your advisor, ask the Pirate Academic Success Center, reach out to someone to get connected if you need help. In terms of advising, it's really important right now that students make an appointment with their advisor. Registration opens on March the 26th, so we're getting really close to that. Students can register for summer and fall courses. So that piece is more looking ahead to your next steps, but it is crucial that students do that now. If you make an appointment with your advisor early on, you're going to get more time, more attention. So I think, as things get busier, as we get closer to that registration time, it'll be harder to get what you need. So be proactive, reach out to your advisor if they haven't reached out to you already, make your appointment, and get yourself squared away for summer and fall.
Dr. Coghill?
I agree that they need to get proactive, but the other thing is if they can create somewhat of a schedule for themselves. And I think that I'm teaching a face-to-face freshman seminar this semester, and that is the biggest challenge that students are talking about with us in class, is that we need to get them to, number one, have a planner or some sort of time management system, but then scheduling time to do their classwork. With due dates the way they are, so often our beginning students will wait until the day of or the afternoon of an assignment is due, rather than starting to do it much sooner. So it's getting that mindset of, I'm going to devote time every 10 o'clock on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is chemistry. And I'm going to watch my chem videos. And I'm going to take notes off of that and create a structure like I had when I was in high school. And we'd love to compare it to college, but they were here for 2 weeks and went virtual. So they're having to create those for themselves. So as a parent, sometimes it's really difficult to get our students to hear us. You are probably saying the same thing we are, but they're going to tune you out. As the nature of a parent, having been there, they do that. But we will definitely repeat some of those same things that you're telling them to try to assist them. Even though we may say create time management schedule, for many students, that's very difficult to get started. So it's study skills coaches like we have within the past who can sit with a student and really help them do that. So I think right about now, we're in March 3rd, we've got to get that time management plan handled, going. And if they haven't used a calendar up till now, it's time to start. And that can propel them through the rest of the semester.
Great. Patrick?
Yeah, so I think for me, the biggest thing in the last few months of school would be, if you haven't already, engage with career services in some capacity. We always challenge our students to do it at least once a semester, to check in with our career experts, our career counselors. The biggest thing I say to students is, even if you know exactly what you want to do, you'd want to talk to an expert that's helped students get there before, because they're usually going to ask you questions like, have you talked to this professor? Have you considered going to the pre-professional advising center? Have you thought about doing an internship? Here's some resources for that. So just that alone will get students thinking about it. I think the biggest thing that we hear from students is, I wish I would have come sooner. So we're going to talk about this later on, specifically about getting ready to graduate. But, if you're a senior, or if you are a parent of a senior, I would say you should be encouraging them to use our office frequently right now. We see a lot of students start to use our services a few weeks before graduation, and it's never too late to use our services, but it's always good to start using them early on. I just checked our system, and again, going to this point of the last few months of school, This is the time, if you haven't already secured an internship for the summer, to start looking. Don't start looking the month of May. A lot of competitive internships have already been taken. There's still a lot of good ones out there. I just checked our handshake system. Again, we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but there's currently over 6,000 internships posted in our system across the country, specifically in North Carolina. And so again, that's the biggest thing I would emphasize is use our services. We have appointments available that cover topics that include creating career goals, finding internships, full-time positions, preparing for interviews, applying to graduate school. So we cover everything. And then we even have a topic that's just general career questions. So we want students to come in with those questions. We have drop-in hours Monday through Friday from 11 to 3. Again, all of this is virtual right now. We hope to be back on campus fully in the fall, but there's lots of opportunities and ways to engage our office. So encourage your student to come see us.
Thank you all. Yeah, I think the theme in general is just start early. Don't wait till the last minute, whether it's like you said, finding an internship, getting that schedule set is just start early, start early. So Dr. Coghill, you mentioned, of course, that our students went virtual very early on and have stayed virtual. And virtual learning is a challenge for a lot of students. Sometimes this is the first time they've ever learned anything virtual. They may not have had a virtual class in high school or at a community college. And this is most certainly a concern for our parents and family members. So what are some resources that are available to our students who need that extra assistance when learning virtually? We'll start with you, Dr. Coghill.
Great. Well, the first resource is always going to be their faculty member or instructor, and to build a relationship with them. And it's not just for that particular class, it's the bigger connection to campus. And their faculty are holding office hours, but a lot of times our students are reluctant to go. It's going to turn out to be a very positive experience for them, but that first visit can be scary. So getting that encouragement from family to go talk with them and to connect with that faculty member makes a big, big difference. Our center, the Pirate Academic Success Center, holds tutoring. We have study skills coaching. We have study groups, which is really kind of a neat connection. And yes, it's done on Teams, but we can turn our cameras on. We've trained our tutors and study group leaders to use techniques to be able to share screens and really connect. Because the other thing that I hear from students is feeling like they're not connected to fellow ECU students. They don't have that peer connection. So not only do you get tutoring or course content information, you also get to meet ECU students who have been there, taken the same professor. They've sat in that large lecture that our students right now are not sitting in the same way. And I've seen them be real ambassadors, tutors being ambassadors to faculty, to be a bridge and talk about what Dr. Moorhead is like and go talk to him. And often it takes a student to tell another student a piece of advice for that student to really go through those steps. So making those kind of connections and giving a sense of community is incredibly important to doing well in a class. So we keep talking about reaching out, but we're also reaching your student. So we have a text messaging campaign that we use. We are doing a success call center where we're calling every freshman who are in the residence halls right now are getting calls every other week from us, reminding them of dates. We need them to answer their phone. We need them to set up their voicemail because none of them have set up voicemails. Cracks me up. But to connect with us. So we are trying to reach out to them as well. But it's to, we've got to get connected in order to finish strong.
Thank you. Dr. Guidry.
I would just piggyback on what Dr. Coghill was saying in terms of connection is the key. So I would encourage your students to reach out. to make those connections, to attend those virtual office hours, to email, to do a Teams meeting, to request a meeting. Connection is the key. And I tell my students all the time, at any given time, I'll have upwards of 300 students, half of those could be new. It is the frequent flyers that I remember. It's those students that reach out to me quite a bit. And we love it. Believe it or not, we love those students. We love helping them, connecting with them. Those are the students you remember their names, you remember their schedules, you remember lots of information about them. So connection is the key, and it has to be a two-way street because we do deal with a lot of students. So if they will just make that effort, and I know it can be a little bit scary, especially that first time, but just keep encouraging them to do that, and just to find someone on campus that they can, an adult that they can connect with, that can sort of be their lifeline, I guess.
Patrick, do you have anything to add?
I would just reiterate the connection piece. I think virtually it's difficult sometimes to feel those connections, but I always tell students you're paying for it. So make the professors, our staff work for it, which means engaging them. If you don't engage them, then you're kind of giving them a pass, and you want to engage them. This is why all faculty are required to have office hours, and they want to see you. I think the other point to that, when I was a student, and what I try to stress to students when I work with them is, if you connect with them just a few times in office hours, when that paper comes across and they see your name and they know who you are, they're going to be a little bit, maybe not more lenient, but understanding, because you've come to them and said, hey, I'm having some difficulty with this, or can you explain it further? If there's a class of 200 students and 20 of them engage in office hours, those are going to be the 20 students that faculty member understands and relates to a little bit more and appreciates that they took that time. So the connection piece is huge. And again, going back to updating the voicemail, I would stress students, as much as we inundate them with emails, identify some of those mentors that we've talked about today. And I would throw in there our career liaisons as mentors, understanding who those people are that you should be paying attention to their emails and not throwing them into the trash. And prioritizing what's important to you and when, and making sure you're getting those communications as they come out.
Thank you. Yeah, it can be for especially first year students, freshman students, or first time transfer students. It can be very nerve-wracking to be in one of those large lectures, and even virtually a large lecture, where you see the number count of the number of viewers to speak up and ask questions in class. Go to that professor's virtual office hours, but like y'all said, it really truly pays off. That step forward to make that connection just pays off long term.
And if I can add, I've been talking with students about if things are not going well in a class, to get honest with themselves, but also get honest with the faculty member, to at least try to engage and have an honest conversation of, maybe we recognize that there is a lot going on behind the scenes in every single student's life. This is not an easy time to be in school. And I say that not for us to use that as an excuse not to succeed, but just to be honest and have an exchange with your faculty member. And that's the way you can be proactive. Because the students that I talk with often feel powerless right now, and they aren't. They can empower themselves by reaching out and talking with that faculty member, by going to help resources and getting people on their support team. That's not just the parents that are on their support team or their loved ones, but there's a support team at ECU that even if we can't talk in the same room right now, we can really help you virtually, and we're ready to. And I think that starts to change the way that they can feel about school and about learning during COVID.
Yes, so true. Thank you for adding that in there. So you talked about parents being the support system. We definitely encourage our parents to get involved with the university. That's what my office is all about. Because we know that when our parents are equipped with the tools and the resources, their umbrella, then that their student succeeds. So talking about that, what are some available resources to parents and family members in your areas when it comes to academics, and then also the internship and job search. So Patrick, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, so I think the number one resource that I would send parents to is our website, which is career.ecu.edu. And then on the top homepage, you'll see a drop-down menu banner, and one of the tabs is parent and family. So we've put together kind of an FAQ page for parents to use when it comes to learning about career services, as well as frequently asked questions related to our services and how we can help their students. So I think that's one page I would definitely direct for this group to understand. Another area that's not as common, but I would definitely encourage those that are viewing. You're obviously on Facebook, and so follow our pages. We have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and I think that's a really good way to, what we've seen in the past, parents will tag their student in some of our posts. We frequently post about upcoming events, services, programs. We just concluded both of our big job fairs for the year, but again, start following those pages for the next round of job fairs coming up in the summer and the fall. I think that's mainly the two resources I would give for parents. I think if we're going to talk about what they should be encouraging their students to use, again, if you go to our homepage, we have several resources available. Specifically, Handshake is our flagship program resource. It has everything inside of it, including our job listings. Currently, we usually average over 7,000 job listings at any given time for students. It also is a system where students can go in and schedule appointments with our counselors. So we have one-on-one, 1-hour sessions with counselors. I mentioned previously that we have the virtual drop-ins. That's available just on our homepage. So everything that I talk about today is mainly going to be found right on our homepage. So we kind of make it very easy for people to find. In addition to that, we also have a program called Virtual Resume Review. So we had this before COVID, but it's more relevant now than ever because what it is basically students can log into Handshake, upload their resume to their profile, and then a counselor will see that and review it digitally and send them feedback by email. So again, for those students that feel like they're stretched too thin, they have a part-time job, they're in class, and again, this is for parents to hear. There's really no excuse in terms of engaging with career services because this is a perfect example. They could be up at 2 a.m., drop their resume in, and then by probably 2 or 3 days after that, they're going to get some digital feedback and start that conversation with a counselor. So that is a really good program that we really like. On top of that, again, inside of Handshake, we have some exclusive resources that are subscription based that students can access, like a national job search database. We also have things like Interview Stream, which helps them prepare for interviews. Again, all of these things are located right on our homepage under Stay Connected with Us. So that's a very broad, very quick overview of some of the resources. But to start with, I would encourage parents to go to that frequently asked page to get some really good resources that we link from there.
Thank you. Dr. Guidry?
Okay. So with MAP advising, I told you earlier it was the major advisement program. So there are 3 counselors in our area, and we work specifically with students who are undecided about their major. So they're not sure which direction they want to go, or they get into a major and decide, oh, maybe this isn't for me. So sometimes your GPA can dictate that. Sometimes they don't quite meet the minimum requirements for GPA. And some programs will have a 3.5 GPA. So that's not to say that your student is not a great student. It just means maybe they didn't meet the requirement and we need to think of another route for them or another major. So, we do work with people who are undecided or people who want to change their major for whatever reason. There are 2 main resources I shared with Carter earlier, and I think she's going to provide those for you, you guys. But the first is the Major Exploration Guide, and she'll probably attach or send the link for that. It is a 1-page list of every undergraduate major that we have at ECU. And there are 76 undergraduate majors at ECU, and that's not including the different areas within different majors, so the different concentrations that students can choose within majors. So it is a long list, and I often tell students who are undecided, your best starting point is to take that 1-page list and to read each possibility. Okay, read all 76 of those out loud. And what you can do is just mark out the ones that you know you're not interested in. That page is organized by the college that a major is housed in. So for instance, they're grouped by arts and sciences or business majors or education majors. So it is very handy. Oftentimes students can X out an entire college. You know, they know that they're not going to go into a science and math field, or maybe they're not going to go into a fine arts field, whatever they choose. I tell students to do that and then to choose their top 3 to 5. So choose maybe your top 3 to 5 majors on that list that interest you. And from there, you're going to go to ECU Degree Explorer. You can Google that, ECU degrees, and Carter is probably going to also provide that link for you all. But if you go to that, every undergraduate major that we have at ECU is listed alphabetically. So take those top 3 to 5, click on those and do your research. I tell students, you know, you are not going to wake up your sophomore year one morning and say, oh, I'm going to be an industrial distribution and logistics major. It's not going to happen that way. You have to do the research. You have to be sure you're choosing something that's going to match your talents, your interests. And I also tell students quite often, you may want to be a nurse, but if you can't pass the math and chemistry, the wheels are going to fall off of that bus pretty quickly. So we're going to have to rethink that. So I think, in my opinion, our office is really good at not crushing student dreams, but helping them be realistic. What are you going to excel at? What are you going to be happy doing? And so a good starting place are those 2 resources, the Major Exploration Guide and then the DegreeWorks link to help students. But of course, any student is welcome to get a referral to MAP, and any of our advisors will be happy to sit down and kind of help them, maneuver through that.
In our office too, if we ever get questions from parents and family members who say, my student is wanting to change a major or doesn't know what to do, we are connected across campus and can also share that information and connect with them. So Dr. Coghill, what about resources for parents and family members?
The question.
And
I had one answer, and then I wanted to shift for just a moment on choosing majors. Because I know as a parent of college students, we can be really challenged in what our students are starting to talk about. And we have to have open minds just like they do, and give them the opportunity to explore options. And one major may sound wonderful to us and employable, because that's our number one worry, right? But actually we want them to follow their passions. And I was placed in a position where I had to accept that and really embrace that. I had my oldest wanted to do photography. And in my mind, I thought, you're going to be living in our basement for the rest of your life if you're going to do photography. I want you employed. And it ended up that his exploration of it led him to some business programs too. But he is very good at what he does and loves it. And that's what we want as parents. We want our students to love what they're doing. Their grades come when they love and have passion about what they're studying. And so your student might be in the wrong program right now, and you just need to open that conversation up with them about their classes, not just their grades, but what are they learning in that class and what's interesting to them in that class. I have a student I worked with for 2 years who just chose geology. Now, as a freshman, he was in business. He didn't want to hear about any other programs, but those classes weren't fitting him. And for him to then, as a junior, discover geology, it's so exciting. And to watch him now, he's in the perfect zone. And he had struggled originally. So that's what we want for our students to get there. I hate the fact that we didn't get to meet parents during the summer, because one of the things that we all do is, the ability to talk with you as a parent and talk about our resources and put a face and a name and make that connection. During a traditional orientation, I had my business cards to everybody I meet. And I do that and I say, hold on to this. Because sometimes during the freshman year or any time during college, something might go wrong. Lots and lots of things go right, but there might be this moment where you're trying to find a person on campus to call. Now you just met 3 people, 4, right? 4 of us that you can call and that you can make connections with. On the PASC website, we have a parent section. And in that parent section, there is a referral form. That referral form goes to me. And I am on it within 24 to 48 hours. We're on it talking to the student, first I make a connection back to the parent. Tell me what's going on. Why are you concerned about your student? And I know in saying that, I just have welcomed a bunch of referral forms. And that's good though, because we want to make that connection. If it's something going with classes, we match up tutoring, we follow through on study skills coaching. I know that as a parent myself, you get that gut feeling when something's not going right. Don't ignore it. Do a referral form, we'll talk, we'll follow up, we'll get your son or daughter to the right spot on campus and start to make those supports. Because as much as we're saying to them to connect, sometimes they need a little help connecting. And that's what we're here for, is to help make those connections and help you feel better about ECU and what's going on with your son or daughter. So refer away.
Yeah, you just opened the floodgates.
I know I
did. Which is good, which is good. That's what we want. So our next topic that we were going to talk about a little bit was major changes. So you, Dr. Coghill and Dr. Guidry talked a little bit about that. Did you want to add any more about changing majors for their student, what resources were available?
I think sometimes students know, what they want to do. So that's an easy referral. They can talk to their current advisor. And sometimes, they've really narrowed it down to 2 or 3 things. And that's what's important for them to come to MAP so we can have those conversations. I spend a lot of time with students just talking, and things that they may not tell their parents, they'll tell us, like my parent really wants me to be an engineer, but I'm really not feeling that, and I'm really more interested in this. So we can really just help them process that, think through that, give them skills for talking back, to their parents. So I would just say anytime that your student wants to change major, is considering changing major, if they're not doing well, they probably need to change their major or come to MAP. So, just send them to us. I have parents contact me all the time, would you please reach out to my student, but don't tell them I told, and I'm like, of course. So yeah, we are glad to do that. And we welcome you to make referrals or to contact us.
Now, I always tell them that their parent referred them.
Yeah, I do too.
Because we want to build that honesty and rapport with our students.
Right.
It's to have an open mind through those conversations, but do expect, in my opinion, them to do a little bit of homework themselves. And I agree with Tessie that they're waiting sometimes for this lightning bolt moment to happen that it is not going to happen. And when a student is struggling to make sure that the major's right, they're really envious. They can be envious of friends who just absolutely know. And sometimes it's hard, or a sibling who had it all together and then you seemingly don't. And to have that conversation can be difficult for our students. So as parents, have an open mind to it and ask them to do a little bit of homework, to know what classes they should take the next semester, talk it through with them. But I think when they get involved in internships and with career services, that's another way that students find out whether they're in the right major. And it's a big motivator for them to come back into school and classes and do well.
I also think oftentimes, you're talking about 18 to 20-year-olds who are scared of that commitment. Like, I'm going to have to do this for the rest of my life. And so I often have the conversation with them. Most people who have a major have a twisted pathway. You know, they've had different careers and different options. Just because you get a degree in one certain area, it doesn't necessarily box you into that. So really having those open conversations that we can have with them, just to show them there are lots of options for most degrees. And just because they're choosing one thing doesn't mean, you know, they're going to be stuck with that or have to do that forever. So I think sometimes that lightens the load for them to make a choice.
That is a really great segue to talking about those students who are, maybe this is their senior year and they can't necessarily change their major, but want to change their career path. So what about, you know, you mentioned those conversations of, you know, your major doesn't box you in. Once you have that English degree, that does not mean you're going to be an English teacher necessarily. So Patrick, are there any resources at the Career Center, or maybe, you know, reaching out to those career liaisons to have those conversations with, for those students who, you know, I'm graduating in May, this is my major, this is going to be my degree, but I don't really know exactly what route I want to take with my career.
Yeah, first thing I'd say is it's very common. We see even some of our most competitive majors like nurses and engineers wanting to switch their career path a few weeks before graduation. We always encourage them to finish their degree if they're that close, never to switch their degree at that point because it's kind of throwing money away. We want them to complete their degree. But I would say, just to go back to the major exploration, Career Services is definitely a supporter of that process with students. On our website, again, directing people to career.ecu.edu for those resources. Specifically, one is Focus 2, and that's a pretty comprehensive tool that students can use to not only learn about themselves through their interests, their work and leisure interests, as well as some of their skills and aptitudes, but then they can take that information and connect it to occupational information. So the way that we kind of see major exploration and career exploration in Career Services is we reverse it a little bit. We like to talk with students more about what do you want to do versus what do you want to study, because we can fit almost anything that students want to do with the 70 plus majors that exist at ECU. So again, going back to what Tessie said and Elizabeth said, it's, you can be an English major and go to law school or medical school, or you can be an engineer and then open your own photography business. It doesn't mean that these things have to be a direct connection. And we really emphasize that a lot to students. So going to your question, I think for us, I think the biggest thing I'd say to a student that's about to graduate and wants to change their major is definitely start today by going in and scheduling an appointment with a career counselor, but also emphasizing to that student, you're not alone, that this is something that is very common. And there's going to be a lot of options once you've secured a bachelor's degree. Let's say we're talking about an undergraduate degree. Just opening that door, the way that I talk about it with students is, you now have the key to open the door. So once you get that key of a bachelor's degree in anything, you've opened a lot of doors for yourself. So now it's time to, again, what Elizabeth said, we really emphasize experiential learning and getting students out there into the world to experience things, to figure out what they want to do. You know, a more layman term way that we talk about it is just testing the waters. You know, if you think you want to, I'm going to keep using Elizabeth's example. If you want to be a photographer, go and shadow a photographer at a wedding.
Now. I'll just say that he's employed.
So there you go. Exactly. So, you know, if you think that's what you want to do, you have to go and shadow someone that's a photographer and has their own. We say, you know, you can watch a million movies about a certain topic, like being a police officer, being a nurse, whatever it is, but you'll never know how that feels until you're actually sitting in that seat, at least observing someone doing that actual job. Because guess what? Movies aren't real. And so the way that they're going to portray it in a movie is going to be a lot different, a lot, you know, more entertaining than possibly the real job is. So we really emphasize that. Again, for students that are feeling that anxiety of, I don't even know what I want to do yet, and I'm about to graduate, it's perfectly normal, but don't wait any longer. Definitely encourage them to come see us. We do offer services to alumni. And again, that's another thing that I would stress for a student that's about to graduate. They have a lot on their plate right now. They're trying to get out. They're trying to pass their exams. They don't want their GPA to drop just because it's their last semester. So fit us into your schedule in career services, but know that we'll still be here for you after you graduate. So definitely come see us. Even if you are done, we'll still have virtual appointments into the summer, into the fall. So even if you move back home to Charlotte, New Jersey, anywhere, you can still connect with our staff.
And I
Awesome.
would add, seniors, you're not done yet. You're not done yet. So I've talked with some advising colleagues who are very worried about their seniors because they're starting to back off the academics because they're getting closer and COVID has affected their world, but they're not across the finish line yet. So to keep encouraging them to push and to get help on campus, because that writing center help or help at the pass with somebody to work with them and to help motivate all the way to the end.
Fantastic information. I'm loving the conversation so far. But as we wrap up, because we are getting close to an hour, so as to wrap up this conversation, I will ask all of you to give maybe a few key points that parents and family members can really take away. We've talked about a lot and all of it was great, but just some of those few key points that can really stick out in their head as a good starting point to take away from this conversation. So Dr. Guidry, why don't you start us off?
Okay. To wrap up, I would say connect with your advisor, make yourself known, be pushy, be persistent, be that student that is a frequent flyer, because those are the students that we love. So be persistent. I think push to the end. Again, you're not finished with your freshman year. You're not finished with your sophomore year. Continue to do your best until the very end. And just, along with connecting, is just find someone on campus that is your lifeline, period. Find someone you can go to if you have a question about anything. Okay. And that's what I would close with.
Thank you. Dr. Coghill?
Yeah, I believe in student empowerment, and that sometimes as a student, you feel out of control with your class or what's going on within the classroom or virtually, the virtual classroom. And empowerment comes from asking for help and making connections for that assistance, whether that's with tutoring from us, which is all free, a study skills coach who's kind of helping you strategize and finishing strong. You definitely, your faculty members, you want to dial that in. It could be, working with the writing center. Any of those kinds of supports are there for a student. And to get active with your studies and take ownership of it. Ownership means I'm going to reach out and ask for some help to get through Math 1065, because I'm not just going to sit passively and let this kind of go over me and not fight for it. And so there's lots of support on campus if they get empowered to reach out.
Patrick?
One of my favorite quotes to share with students is, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And I say that from a career services perspective of, we have a lot of students that say, I want to be a lawyer, I want to go to medical school. But then when you challenge them to say, what's your plan? They stop and they're like, why are you even asking me that? I already told you I want to go to medical school. So
Okay.
it's taking 3 steps back from that and saying, okay, so here's 7 things that you can do in the next 2 years that you're here to make that a success and make sure that you're competitive for medical school or law school or getting a job. And so, that's one message that I would definitely emphasize is, as a parent, you challenge your student to say, what is your plan? And keep challenging them to ask them that question every single time you talk with them, especially when they talk about their goals, because we talked about it today. There's several of us on this call and at the university that want to help them succeed. And then just to be positive, I think, one thing that COVID's done, I think, for students that are entering the job market is they think that there's less jobs available. But 2 things I would say about that is there are a lot of jobs available. We just had 2 job fairs with over 100 employers attending, over 1,000 one-on-one sessions with students, and they are interviewing for full-time jobs and internships. So there's a lot of jobs out there. And then to bring that point home, I think for students, it's being open-minded. Morning, and there was over 3,000 positions in the system that had selected all majors as what they were recruiting for. So it kind of brings that full circle, that question about I'm thinking about changing my career, but I'm in a major. There's 3,000 opportunities available now where the employer's like, it doesn't matter what your major is. We want someone that's good at this thing that we're looking for. So again, I think that's really important for students to understand. There's a lot of employers out there that are very open-minded. So students need to start kind of connecting with them and seeing where they're at. So I just appreciate you guys having me on the call today, and come see Career Services, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all so much. Like I said, I think this has been a really great conversation. So thank you for joining this conversation. Thank you for joining us for our very first Pirate Parents Live umbrella series on finishing strong. If anyone who has been watching has any questions, you can reach out to every area, the Career Services area, Pirate Academic Success Center, or MAP Academic Advising. Or if you really don't know where to start, you can reach out to my office, which is Parent and Family Programs. So you can, our email is parents@ecu.edu. It's very simple, which is nice. So thank you all again for joining, for watching this live, for watching the archived version, and thank you to our presenters. Our next Pirate Parents Live in our Umbrella Family series is on well-being, and we will be talking about the upcoming well-being hub that will be on campus soon. So that will take place same time, same location, but next Wednesday. So take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.